You're about to discover the 5 reasons why most relationship therapy doesn't work and why people often report struggling, going around in circles and feeling ever more frustrated and lost as they go through the endless sessions.
We want you to understand this. Whoever you end up working with, whether it's with us or with anyone else.
These are really key things to understand when you are choosing your therapist so that you ensure that you're set up for finding the therapist that gives you a breakthrough rather than just giving you more frustration.
As well as identifying the 5 reasons why most therapy doesn't work, we will be explaining what you need to look for in order to get a therapist that can support you to have the transformation that you want.
And we'll be explaining why our approach is quite different from standard relationship therapy, as well as why we're able to not only talk about great results, or even hoping for the best, as most therapy is, but to also guarantee that you get real results, so long as you show up and implement.
How much longer are you going to wait before getting help?
Think about where your relationship and family could be heading if things continue to be the way they are right now.
And the dreaded question, at what stage are you going to have to call the lawyers if you don't get this right, if you don't get the right therapist?
So this is really important, but why should you listen to us? So before we jump into that, a few words about who we are and why we're qualified to talk about this. So I'm Matt, and this is my beautiful and incredible wife, Rebecca, and we're the team here at Aligned with Love.
We work with individuals and couples across the country and beyond, from the wonderful city of Cardiff in Wales.
Some people travel here to Cardiff for the intensive part of our work. Others prefer to work remotely. We can accommodate both.
Many of them have shared their stories, and you can read about them on Google and see the videos on our website.
Also, we've been across media, sharing advice and expertise on the radio and so on. And we also host our amazing podcast, the Relationship Breakthrough Show with Matt and Rebecca, which you can access on all major podcasting platforms. Personally, I struggled for years in a failing relationship. So I have my own personal story and journey. I was unhappy for years, going around in circles. And it took me a long time to be ready to get the help I needed to make sense of it. My passion now is to help others who are also ready to get that shift and make their relationship really work for them.
I spent almost 20 years from man to man to man to man, going from the nice guy with whom I felt really loved, but I did not feel any sexual attraction at all, to the most exciting guys with whom I did feel super attracted towards, but I did not feel safe, loved, or secured, because they didn't want to commit nor care about my feelings or my needs. It was not until I embarked in a healing and educational process that I deliberately manifested my dream partner, who happened to be my Matt.
We also run events, and we're regularly invited to speak at other people's events too about relationship. So let's look at the 5 reasons why most relationship therapy doesn't work and what you need to be aware of when selecting the right therapy for you. So the first reason most relationship therapy doesn't work is that it's time focused, meaning that you pay for some time and hope that something good is going to happen. Sounds reasonable. Well, in many cases, it creates a really limited result. Well, firstly, when you're paying for sessions, the obvious question, which is also time related, is how long is this going to go on for? Often the therapist will and ah and at that point and say something like, well, it depends on this or that. But what that means is that you're going through the motions of something without really knowing what success or completion will even look like. Also, a great question to ask a potential therapist is, what kind of result do you offer? What can you guarantee? And if they and ah at that point and start shifting nervously or look at you and sort of look uncomfortable, they can't answer the question, then you've got to ask, well, what is that really telling you? Because let's face it, that question is 100% reasonable.
If you're committing to a result and paying for a service, it's perfectly understandable to expect some kind of positive result, right? No, It just depends on you and how ready you are. They might say, with a slightly mystic look in their eye. If it doesn't look right, challenge it.
Another issue with the 1 hour sessions is that you tend to talk about the problem and what's going wrong. So you've got just enough time in an hour to get your dirty linen out in public, but not enough time to really get to the bottom of things to resolve them.
People can almost dig in until the end of the session, be evasive, and know that you've got another week until you have to face it again. By contrast, unlike the single session model, ours works as a 6-month commitment. You've got a clear beginning, middle, and end. Beginning, middle, and end, and a window to play all out within.
We need to assess initially though, so we don't ask you to decide on that until after our first session, for which we don't charge a fee.
We work in a much more intensive way than most therapy, meaning that we make sure that we get to the root cause of the issues rather than talking about the symptoms of the problem.
Because it's one thing to have a better understanding of a problem, it's another to really transform and get clarity around it. Looking at your beliefs where we need time to work on things, to put things into practice, to come back with questions. Like if we want to get fit or lose weight, you can't really see it as a quick fix.
Also, unlike most therapy, we literally guarantee that you get a result, so long as you show up and complete the process and ask for help when you need it.
It's a commitment, but if you're ready for it, then so are we. Fair enough?
Also, it's very much action focused, not just about joking. A bit like trying to get fit. Talking to a personal trainer will get you so far, but if you actually want to improve your fitness, then you need to go a step further, right? Our work is very much like that.
And not everyone is ready for it, but if you are ready to take action, we know 100% that it works. And we back up that with our guarantee. Listen to our clients who are reviews. So Mark says, my experience of counselling is that it was more like a life or death situation, whereas this has been so insightful and educational that it's massively benefited us as a couple as well as individuals.
Carla and Vicky are saying, we wouldn't be here together now if it wasn't for you two. We really wouldn't. Olivia is saying, it is the best thing about relationships that we've ever done, really.
The second reason you need to be aware of is that spend time talking about the problem isn't the same as getting to the root cause of the problem. While a certain kind of talking can be useful, the wrong kind of talking can be quite demoralizing and even depressing. Like imagine talking about how to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. There's only a certain number of times that you want to have that conversation.
In most relationship therapy, you come in and start sharing the dramas of the week. I couldn't believe that she did this. What about when you did that?
All of a sudden we're going back and forth and it feels very much like being at home, but with the added embarrassment that we have someone else witnessing how bad the communication is. And also the patterns can get even more embedded than they were at the beginning.
Try another analogy. It's like if we have a problem in our foundations and one day we get a crack in the wall of our house.
You can put some filler in the crack and paper things over and it may even look a bit better. But don't you also have that nagging feeling that there's really a deeper problem here underlying? And you know that it's coming back sooner or later. That's our coping mechanism. And most standard therapy is really giving us coping mechanisms to deal with the problems that we're experiencing, or as people say, tools to de-escalate the cycle that people are in.
Yeah, which can help to a point, but it's like finding a really nice wallpaper to cover the crack. It's still a short-term fix and may well end up under rubble eventually anyway.
And how's that going to feel? Yeah, so by contrast, our work is deeper and more about getting to the underlying problems. You could say like getting the builders in to get to the root cause of the issue in the foundations.
Exactly.
It's a commitment, but if you want to build things on a solid foundation, it's essential.
And some people are happy to live, with the wallpaper hanging off the wall all over the place. It doesn't look any good, but for some people, it's enough.
So if you're looking for coping mechanisms, then you don't need our help. You can keep doing what you're doing, or maybe read a few magazine articles and get some ideas. Again, like the wallpaper, they may help for a while and things might look a bit better, but it's very unlikely to get to the underlying issues.
Gemini is saying, I felt that I had an education. I've been given tools and strategies that you actually own, and I would use literally every day for the rest of my life, and that actually you can't put a price on. And that for me is the most valuable gift that I have ever had in my entire life.
The third reason is it feels unbalanced because it's just one therapist, either a man or a woman, so one of you necessarily feels like the odd one out. For lots of men, for example, we may not be overly enthusiastic about the idea of sitting in therapy with our partner and a female therapist. We might say, well, that's just what I need, right? Rather than getting it in the ear from my partner, now I've got a female therapist chiming in and agreeing as well.
Equally for women, the idea of a male therapist can be uncomfortable, as maybe they're just not going to resonate with my experience, but counter me with more logic, which is going to frustrate me as much as when my partner does it.
Even when they are doing their best and being as neutral as they can be, it's so hard to avoid the feeling that it's somewhat unbalanced.
That's right. There's no getting away from the fact that men and women have some specific and predictable differences. So, how does our therapist, whether man or woman, square the circle? So, what's the solution?
So, by contrast, we always meet with couples together initially, 2 to 2, meaning that we can hear from both of you and give you some unbiased and balanced feedback and assessment.
Because our 2 to 2 approach, we make sure that you feel heard and understood, as well as focusing on your breakthrough thanks to both intuition, and logic, empathizing and challenging.
Also, working together means that we can use the power of role play to demonstrate, not just talk about, but really show you key issues or factors, and also that we can lead by example.
And here's what our clients are saying about this. Vicky and Carla, you guys really showed us some really good examples with the role play there, just to help support not just with speaking because people can't understand the words, but actually seeing it is quite nice.
Klaus goes on, I really liked the two approaches, almost like having the emotional female kind of woman on one side and also having the more rational logic approach as well, questioning, reasoning at the same time.
Nicoletta is saying, what was amazing is the fact that they teach us as a couple, as we could see examples of what they are doing in the relationship, you can see how a couple could work. Maria is saying, your play working with Matt is really useful because the woman can have a possibility of another woman to listen because we are so different, and the man to be listened to by another man, which is also interesting, this kind of way of working.
The fourth reason is that the therapy is purely cognitive rather than working directly emotionally. So many therapists focus purely on the understanding and challenging our thought patterns.
This one particularly can be really helpful, but it can also neglect issues that are emotionally rooted. For example, if you get triggered into a reaction before you have time to really think, the danger is that you will be already lost and causing trouble before your cognitive or thinking function really kicks in. It's almost like the emotional reaction comes before we have time to catch ourselves. This point is absolutely critical.
So we might understand that something we're doing is unhelpful, but understanding on its own doesn't get us any closer to being able to really change the pattern. And that pattern might be the one that's causing us big issues in our relationship.
Exactly. It's like we run it on autopilot, and it's hard to stop habits that may have been running for a while. By contrast,
we work intensively around how to control our emotional state through practical work and interventions that work directly on our emotions.
This gives us a chance to interrupt, to disrupt, and change long standing habits, even when we've understood for ages that the habit is causing us problems. And here's what our happy clients are saying about this. Alex is saying, whilst I did a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy with a therapist, I never really looked at the underlying reasons causing that, but instead I dealt with the direct effect of how to deal with that. We changed my thought patterns of my subconscious, and I can't even begin to describe how differently my approach has just changed. I feel far more confident, calm, that stress has gone at work, and I don't even get anxious.
Stephen goes on and says, I finished the work now a couple of months on and I still feel great. It was such an eye-opener.
Gemini is saying, if I could look back to it 6 months ago from where I am now, I would never believe it. Jasmine is saying, in a very short period of time, I'm like a complete different person, but in a good way.
Dan says, Matt doesn't hold back by saying you're going to go deep. You're going to unearth things that are really important.
Graciela is saying, life-changing program. Rebecca is saying, it really has helped to compartmentalize things and to think about things more logically. So I feel a weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
The fifth reason is that in most therapy, they are scared or reluctant to talk about masculinity and femininity because it's seen as so sensitive and not politically correct. Because it's seen as a taboo and too sensitive, most therapists don't really explore it, and it's one of the most critical aspects of the relationship, which is the interplay between the masculine and feminine dynamics in the relationship.
It's just putting the too difficult or too sensitive box, and they overlook this completely. Unfortunately, you can't be doing everything else right, but if you're getting this wrong, things still won't work out, either individually or as a couple. By contrast,
we explore this area in detail, giving you lots of perspectives around how to identify the dance and how it's playing out, and we just don't learn this stuff at school. It's something we really specialise in, so make sure that your therapist is set up to support you around this area.
Nicoletta is saying, what was amazing is the fact they teach us as a couple, and we could see examples of what they're doing in the relationship. You can see how a couple could work. Maria is saying, I also appreciated the way you are playing roles, such a way of presenting the cases. And it has an emotion because you can see, you can hear, and have insights at the same time. Playing roles is much more better.
So now you know what you're looking for. You may be ready to get the support that you need.
Or you may not, because some people are just curious, but they're not ready to take action to solve a problem. You may be one of those people who prefer to delay, sweep it under the rug, and keep distracting yourself, saying that the problem will go away on its own. Or you may be one of those people who, faced with doubt, don't take action straight away. If that's the case, we wish you all the best. However, if you are like us, you're ready to step up and deal with your challenges.
In that case, the next step is to find out where you currently are with your relationship. You can get immediate tailored feedback on your relationship by clicking on the link to take the Clarity Scorecard, where you will answer our yes/no questions to find out the key areas of improvement in your relationship. Click through now and you'll get your feedback through immediately.